The 8th Senate has been entangled in one controversy after the other right from its inauguration on June 9th this year. Now, the storm over the manner in which some lawmakers emerged as principal officers in the Senate is still brewing, and another is gathering. Now, some lawmakers in the Senate under the Unity Forum have written a petition to the Inspector General of Police alleging that some lawmakers have forged some sections in the Senate rulebook. The contention was that the Senate Standing Rules 2015 was secretly amended to replace the use of open ballot system with secret ballot system in the election of the principal officers in the Senate. Another amendment to the Senate Standing Rules, which is sure to further deepen the crisis, is a new section which prescribes equal committee chairmanship positions for each of the 6 geopolitical zones. We spoke with the former chairman, Senate Committee on Rules and Business, Senator Ita Enang, on this issue.
I have listened to everybody who has had opportunity of speaking on this matter. Nobody has admitted that there was any amendment of the rules of the 7th Senate. By the grace of God and the privilege granted by the Senate President Emeritus, Senator David Mark, GCON, he made me chairman of the Rules and Business Committee. And I chaired the Rules and Business of the Committee of the House of Representatives before I moved, for the period I was there, before I moved to the Senate. The standing orders is that which the House adopts and uses. And Section 60 of the 1999 Constitution says that the Senate or the House of Representatives shall regulate its own proceedings, that is, including the procedure for summoning and recess of the House. And that means that it is the Senate in session, presided over there by the President of the Senate or the Deputy President of the Senate or Senate President Emeritus or the Speaker of the House, presiding in Senate, in plenary, that will amend the rules. Therefore, if there is any contention that there was amendment of the rules, then the only evidence that any person can show that the rules were amended is to bring up a few things. One, on what date was the rules amended? Who sponsored the amendment? What were the terms of the motion to amend? On what day, on what was the item on the order paper, or which order paper was the proposed amendment reflected? And who moved it? Produce the Hansard that shows the argument for and against. Who presided as Senate President or Deputy Senate President or President pro tempore? And if you show the order paper, then you show the vote and proceedings of the following day on which it is said to have been adopted. I think this is the only way that the controversy, the parties can resolve this controversy. Because by way of amending the rules, our standing orders, as it were, says that you shall give notice of amendment to the President of the Senate. It shall be published. The Rules and Business Committee shall publish it. It shall be circulated. Then by about 2 or 3 or 4 days, then it could go for a hearing. All I remember is that there were proposals since new committees were created, like Committee on Millennium Development Goals, the Committee on Investment, and some other committees which were not covered by the rules of the 6th Senate. So we made, with the consent of the President of the Senate Emeritus, we invited memoranda. There were distinguished senators submitted memoranda, and we proposed those amendments. But the Rules and Business Committee completed its work and laid it on the table. But because of the volume of work that we did not consider that amendment on the floor. And so you cannot have a vote and proceeding that shows that those amendments were considered. But in this controversy on the issues arising, I will not be able to speak on the rules book of on the standing orders of the 8th Senate because I am not very familiar with the issues. And I think that so many issues has arisen that it is better to speak less and to listen more.
Now, when this matter was still being debated, the Deputy Senate President stood up and said that a rule book goes or dies with the preceding assembly, meaning to say that the rule book for the 7th Assembly has gone with the 7th Assembly, and with the 8th Assembly is a new rule book for the 8th Assembly. What are your thoughts about his assertion?
His Excellency Senator David Mark, President of the Senate, now emeritus, declared that the Senate is adjourned sine die. That means that the Senate stands adjourned. Senate is not dissolved. It is the President Muhammadu Buhari, that will now issue a proclamation, that now did issue a proclamation, I think on the 8th, dissolving, on the 6th or 7th, dissolving the 7th Senate, the 7th Assembly, and also issued a proclamation that the 8th Assembly, Senate, shall stand inaugurated by 10 a.m. on 9th of June, 2015. To that extent, the rules book, in my humble opinion, did not go with that Senate. Because the Constitution says that the Senate and the House of Representatives shall regulate its own proceedings, including the procedure for inaugurating and dissolution. If I take it and read for the purpose of our audience, it states in Section 60 of the Constitution, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the Senate or the House of Representatives shall have power to regulate its own procedure, including the procedure for summoning and recess of the House. Procedure for summoning and constituting the House includes the procedure of the first day. And now, the standing orders, as it were, also says that no other business shall be done except a presiding officer the presiding officers are elected. And it is the clerk that presides over the election of the presiding officers, Now, I have heard of this controversy of who produces the rules. Is it the Senate or is it the management? Is it the bureaucracy? I want to say that my understanding of the provisions of the Constitution, which says the Senate or the House of Representatives, the Senate is Senate because there are elected senators. The House of Representatives is House of Representatives because there are the elected members of the House. Now, the Constitution also provides that there shall be the clerk. The clerk they are part of, but they do not constitute the Senate. And so there are actions that can be taken. If he says the Senate shall or the House shall, it means that the Senate in session, the Senate as such as Senate, the Senate, a Senate President being present, a Senate, the senators being present, a House, the House of Representative members being present, and the clerk also present. It is what they do. It is the same procedure that the Constitution says that the House, the National Assembly shall, for the purpose of making laws, exercise it by way of bills. It is the same Constitution that gives the National Assembly powers to make laws, that also gives, the same Constitution also gives the Senate and the House of Representatives power to make its own rules, regulations. So the standing orders is a quasi-legislation. The standing orders derives its power and authority from the Constitution. And the Constitution recognizes the legislative body that makes it. It does not recognize administrative action taken as if it were that of the Senate. And I will repeat again, the only evidence that a legislature has taken an action is that there was the presiding officer, speaker or president, there was an order paper. It sat in the place where it was meant to sit, in the legislative chamber. That business of amendments or adoption of the standing orders was a business of the day, or it was introduced in the course of the business of the day in the order paper. It will also show the following day or later that it is reflected in the votes and proceedings. And the votes and proceedings is online. Our standing orders are online. So any person that makes any claim for or against should make a reference to it, and you just get onto the online and then look at the particular day of the votes and proceedings on which it is reflected.
Now, you were in the National Assembly, both houses, for 16 years. In the past, when you were in the National Assembly, what was the process of amending the rule book or the National Assembly standing orders of both chambers? What was the process like?
Well, given my experience, I served in the National Assembly for 16 years. And I remember that I have always been involved in the standing orders. The 1999-2000 standing orders of the House of Representatives, it was when we were inaugurated that I think the Speaker then, I think it was Salisu Buhari, that set up a committee that was chaired by Honorable West Idahosa, and I was a member of the committee that reviewed the rules. But we came to see the rules that were made, because for the inauguration by the Constitution Committee. We made it and adopted it under West Idahosa. We considered the different committees that were created. Now, in 2003, under Masari, I chaired the Rules Review Committee. In 2007, under Ete, Mrs. Ete as Speaker, I also chaired the Rules Review Committee. But before you go to the committee of the Rules Review, the the House of Representatives will be inaugurated with the standing orders that the previous assembly left. That is what happened in 2003. That is what happened in 2007. When I went to the Senate, we were inaugurated under the standing orders that guided the Sixth Assembly. When we were inaugurated on the 6th of June, we did not adopt new standing orders, and throughout the period, we were guided by these standing orders of the Sixth Assembly under Senate President David Mark in his first term and his second term. Therefore, to say that the rules book goes with that previous assembly, I think I would be a little reserved in saying yes, or I would better not comment on it. But I want to say that the rules book of every legislature is the business of that legislature. So the rules book of the 8th Senate is the business of the 8th Senate. But it has to be shown that the 8th Senate has taken action on the rule on its own standing orders.